Welcome back, everyone, to the Johnny Rogers Show. I'm so happy for my guest today. He reached out and wanted to be on the show, and I couldn't be happier to see you again, Jeremy, and have you back on. He's got a brand new special out right now called Love Language, and we're here to talk about your animated show as well called ParaLegal. Everyone, please welcome to the show, Jeremy Dobski.
Hey, thank you. Sorry for interrupting.
It's
I
okay.
thought it was a question. I never got rhetorical questions. In elementary school, I actually had a teacher. He taught us about rhetorical questions. He was a substitute, and he would go, "Does everybody do we understand?" Like he would
Yeah,
reprimand
yeah,
us.
yeah.
He'd be like, "We don't talk. We don't do this. Do we understand?" And we'd go, and as kids, we'd be like, "Yeah, yeah, we understand." And he would flip the fuck out. Flip out. That's a rhetorical question. Do you
In your
understand what that
defense,
means?
I'm also terrible at intros and I really just wing it as I go.
I
So,
think he did a great job.
okay, cool.
I think it was the two of us as a team.
Yeah.
Maybe we need to work on that. But anyway, yeah.
Yeah.
Shout out to Mister Z,
Shout out Mr. Z.
Mister Z. I hope he's dead.
No.
No, he yelled at children a lot, and he also
Oh,
stood at
okay.
the front
Well,
of the
then, like,
class and just staring at us, and he would twiddle his chest hair. So fuck that guy.
really imprinting well on the kids there as an educator.
Yeah, he's a
Definitely like a guy that
substitute.
doesn't like kids teaching kids.
Totally. We were 10 years old. He's yelling at us about rhetorical questions. We hardly know English.
Yeah, the audacity. You're like, I've been here for 10 years, or in school for half of the that time. Why don't you
Yeah,
cut me a
yeah.
little slack? I'm kind of new to the planet.
Yeah. I've been reading for about 4 years now, so English isn't my first language.
It's like my 3-year-old niece. I was like, oh yeah, she doesn't understand sarcasm because my brother asked her to grab like a pair of scissors, and I was like, quick, run with them. And so she did. She ran with the scissors, and everyone freaked out. They're like, why would you do that? And I was like, I was kidding, and I forgot that she has no idea
Yeah.
what tone
It
and
is
voice means.
it is funny when kids try to emulate sarcasm though,
Yeah, totally.
because they don't know what they're doing, but they have the tone right.
It's great.
Yeah.
When I asked you about the one word for the podcast, what came to mind for you?
It was a tricky one, but I considering my album title, kind of my my life philosophies, and some of the best things in life. The word was love,
Oh, what a
and I looked at
cutie
all your
pie.
guests. I looked at all your guests, and not a single person said
Yeah,
the word love.
everyone's
The
so
fuck is wrong with
grind,
these people?
hustle. They're all hustle mentality. It's all
Oh my
words
god!
like
Yeah,
struggle and
social media's fucked us up, man.
consistency. Yeah, I
I'm the
really.
only I'm the only one out here still spreading the message of love.
Yeah, that's great. Everyone's got to have like I was talking to Black Zeus about that too, about how like he's like everyone just has to have like sort of a character around them of a thing that that people can, people will say, I don't want to be put in a box, but if you want to be successful in the entertainment industry, you kind of do, and you want that hopefully to be a valuable box, right? Because
Yeah.
that way it's easier for people to, when they hear your voice, when they hear a bit or when they see something you did, they go, ah, that's who that person is. And he's like, for me, he's like, I want to be like the villain of the comedy scene where I'm just, that's my branding or whatever.
That's so
Um,
funny because he's just the sweetest
oh
guy.
yeah,
That's
totally,
just
totally. That's why
like
it's a
I love
character,
Zeus.
right?
It's like one of
But
my
like
best friends.
on his podcast, he's like, I'm the villain on my podcast, you know?
All right, yeah. Zeus was
So
a bit of a villain, like the god himself.
yeah. Playing
Yeah.
the
And then
character. It's smart.
and yeah, in show business, you do kind of have to find yourself in like you have to know what the hell you're selling, and
Right.
it's been a lot of that. This year has been a lot of that for me. Is kind of going, what exactly is it that I'm selling? Because it's not just jokes and it's not just comedy, because
Right.
those are vague and broad. Like they can be anything. You know, I was gonna make the joke when you said everybody in show business needs to be put in a box. I was gonna say especially a magician's assistant. But we can skip that. I didn't need to say that. But
We
yeah,
can cut that out or leave it
I
in or
think I
whatever.
mean it was interesting because Zeus was grateful. Some real villain
Yeah, yeah,
showing
yeah.
showing gratitude.
Selling it. It was really a small part of the podcast that we touched on, but I was like, that's pretty funny because he's just like, you know what it is? That's almost like his own thing of looking at like him. He has a high bar for comedy and a low bar for bullshit. And so if somebody is
Yeah,
bullshitting or like not being authentic with him or just around him or doing something in he really cares about comedy and you can tell. And so he's branded himself as like, "Oh, I'm a villain because I'm saying these things that people won't say." Like I'm
right.
calling out like certain actors within this comedy industry
Sure, and I
to
know
set a
him
better
well
bar.
enough, and we've had conversations about it. And I was even on his podcast a few years ago talking about both love and gratitude, which is fun. Um, but I think what it is that he set out to be adversarial towards I guess the bullshitters, and I'm here for it. There's a
Yeah,
lot of
same
bullshit. There's
here.
so much bullshit, and I'm just like all right, well, I'm just gonna bypass as much
Yeah.
bullshit as I can. He looks it in the eyes and goes, he goes, "Hello, good morning, bullshit."
Boy, am I gonna read you a riot act. Yeah. But I think that's what like people like that in the industry is, especially in like a place like New York City. I think that's what made the comedy there so good is people were quick to call out like bullshit amongst each other. And so it kind of made everybody, and the corner sort of had that vibe too. Like I always had like very authentic and sometimes humbling conversations with people.
Yeah, I mean, look, man, I think that the problem I don't like to be like there's a problem in comedy and you're not allowed to this or that. Like I'm not one of those people. I think that the biggest issue that I have right now is that everybody wants to be right,
Mm.
and being right isn't very funny. It's way better to be wrong. It's way better to make mistakes. It's way better
Yeah.
to be stupid.
Yeah.
Um, and I really do appreciate that aspect of comedy that calls things out. And I think that a big problem has been that whether someone is like, let's say, on the woke spectrum or on the edge lord spectrum or whatever the fuck let's
Mhm.
say a MAGA comic or a liberal comic, whatever the labels are. And I'm not interested in that either. If it's funny, it's funny. If it's not
Yeah,
funny, it's not
totally.
funny. That's how I look at it. And I think that on both sides, we just see people trying to be right. They're trying to prove a point and be correct. But like, what do you want? What do you want the audience to do with that? What do you
Yeah.
want them to go home and like write a
Man, that guy sure
dissertation?
is smart.
That guy said all the right
He
things.
was so
Boy,
cool. I don't hear
was yeah,
funny in any of those
yeah.
compliments.
Boy, that guy was real cool.
He was a cool guy.
Hey, she was so hot. Like,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
you know,
Uh,
they might not have made me laugh, but they definitely made me think.
yeah, just giving your dissertation on whatever the fuck.
Yeah, I really think I'm really glad to see that we're turning a corner on that though, where it's kind of like it's really been audiences being like, what the fuck is comedy anymore? And it's nice because there have been a lot of us who have just been trying to say whatever's funny about whatever. Like, look,
Yeah.
I have beliefs, fine, but I'm not going to tell you what I believe in if I don't think it's funny.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah,
You
yeah,
know.
of course. But let's go back to love and the reasoning behind picking that word. And your special is named love language. Was there something that like a major event in your life that happened where it was a turning point for you where you were like, I need to spread more love or accept more love or what was that like for you?
All right, therapy.
Strap in.
So I mean, there's a lot there. So love language is actually kind of a tongue in cheek thing. The joke, it literally tongue in cheek because the joke that is love language is and it's on Sirius XM right now, but it's a joke
Nice.
about about licking buttholes.
Okay.
It's a joke about how you shouldn't lick the butthole of someone that you're not in love with.
Yeah.
So I was being I was being kind of like I said, I
Tongue
was
in
being
cheek. Yeah.
cheeky. Yeah, I was being tongue in cheek, but I really was naming the album that because, you know, I think that, well, like, number one, I think that love is the answer to all things. I think that when people ask all the important questions, I think the most important question really comes down to, like, well, where's the love here? Where's the what is the angle? Where does the love lie? You know, even when hatred is present, it's because love was at least once there.
Hmm.
But yeah, there was a big turning point for me. You know, I had a pretty difficult life, and we don't have to get into that at all. But it
Oh,
was really during the pandemic and a lot of the quiet time that I got to myself in order to process a lot of things that I think I was carrying and unable to process as a result of, like, just constantly hustling and grinding and all the stuff we were saying that everybody else was
yeah.
talking about. All that stuff can get in the way of your growth as a person and therefore as an artist. And it wasn't really until I think it was a lot of, like, this the to use buzzwords, I suppose. Everything's a buzzword now.
Yeah.
Self-love, like loving yourself, and accepting love and all of the questions you ask. The answer is yes to all of it.
Hmm.
And maybe it's a matter of maturity. Maybe it was a matter of me processing things. Maybe it was a matter of quiet time. Maybe it was a matter of meditation. It was probably an amalgamation of a whole bunch of things. Getting a dog, meeting who my now fiance, coming to terms with some past relationships and a lot of mistakes that I may have made. My misunderstanding of what maybe what love is, and then also like in a spiritual sense, I think that, like, when the question of like what is it all, is there a god, I think the answer is love. And what love truly is, just I think it's a presence, it's an honesty, it's an all-encompassing energy. I think being truthful, being honest, the things that make a great comedian. Being present, uh, acknowledging that you're interacting with other people and that you're not just up there by yourself. Um, creating things. It's all love. I think that there's nothing else in the universe that we should focus on more. And I think that especially at a time like now where there is so much one side and another saying this and that, and everybody really what they're trying to say is, oh, this is how you're supposed to love, right?
Hmm.
Like, this is uh, I'm worried about you. Like, even if you look at the people who are at odds with each other politically or ideologically, what they're really saying is, no, 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 you're doing it wrong, and I'm actually worried about you.
Right.
Even
Yeah.
terrorists,
Yeah.
even terrorists, they love you. They love you so much that they want you to
Yeah.
stop.
Breathing.
They want no. They want you to stop being infidelitous
Yeah. Yeah. Of course.
by any
Yeah.
means
Yeah.
necessary, because they love you and their God enough to
Uh,
make sure that you end up where you're supposed to be in the after in the afterlife.
yeah, and
It's
it's because
all
it's coming from a place of I would think you're right, and I think very rarely do you have people that are genuinely coming from a place of malevolence and wanting to do harm to you. A lot of it stems from their true belief that what they're trying to get out of people or get out of society is for the better of them. And then it's like, no. Everyone's better is something else. But you're right. Like, if you go down to the core of this, like the concept of love, it really is just a foundation for like hope, also. Because when you experience love or you give love, you're literally giving that person like positivity in a world that is so entrenched in negativity. Like
well,
that's
you might
all
be
you
giving
see in the
them.
news.
I think that love isn't even necessarily about positivity or negativity. Just like happiness isn't really about not being sad. It's about
Right.
an acceptance. And I think love is like a place of security, You know, I think with my comedy, what I want to do is take people to places that they might not want to go,
Hmm.
and then remind them that like we're gonna be okay at the end here.
Right.
I'm not gonna hurt you. I promise I'm not gonna hurt you. And I know
I
when
know I
someone
look.
says I'm not gonna hurt you, they hear, well, why would you bring that up?
Yeah,
You're not
yeah.
gonna hurt me.
He's a word terrorist.
But like think about your family, right? Like think about, I mean, I don't know your family. Maybe they're great.
We're
But
great.
think about the person in your family who's there and
Hmm.
sometimes you wish wasn't. But every once in a while, you
Yeah.
have that moment where you
Yeah.
go, you know what? But that's my family. Like
Yeah.
I love this person.
Totally.
Regardless, unconditionality.
Yeah,
The fact of
totally.
the matter is like, you know, if you look at everybody, they're all protesting for the sake of their children. They're all
Mm.
protesting for the sake of their friends, for the sake of their communities, for the sake of the like themselves, to be better versions of themselves. I need these things so I can be a better me. You need these things so you can be a better you. My children, the community, society, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. No matter how visceral sometimes they can be, the main thing behind it, I mean, they react with fear, and I think it's because fear is the opposite of love. And I think that that's maybe the the, the basis of all of this, is that
Right.
i
People
i lived
reacting out of fear because of lack of love.
yeah, and
Yeah.
I lived a life like that for a really long time. A
Hmm.
long time, for all sorts of reasons, and some are discussed in the special very briefly, but there that's there, and my next one's going to have a lot more of it. um but that was it. When the minute I made that switch from focusing on one and the other, it was just better, man. It's just
Yeah,
better.
totally.
It just is. um and you look at it, you look at what everybody, I mean, let's go to an open mic. Everybody's talking about how dating's hard, and online dating this, and going out with this person and that person. And you listen to it, and it's very rarely self-reflective. It's always like dating's hard because of that person.
Yeah, yeah,
It's
yeah.
always you, but it's
Because
never
all
me.
these bozos. Yeah, I've started doing that more. Like I had a bit that I've been doing forever about like being the first generation of my family to check expiry dates and like going and the bit I kind of like, dig at my mom, but then I had to like look at that bit and I was like, there's got to be some like part of self-reflection that I can add to this joke where I'm going, yeah, but I also like it took me this long to start checking it. You know what I'm saying? Like to play back onto myself instead of just, and that's something that I see with comics like all the time. And I never noticed it until very grateful to have this conversation. It was one of the only conversations I ever had with Mike MacDonald. But when I went to open for Darren Frost a long time ago in Ottawa at Yuck Yucks, Mike MacDonald would just pop in to shows. He would just come in, and he came in the green room, and we were sitting talking while the host was on stage. And he was telling me about this comic. He didn't mention the name, but he said this comic had a bit about how wars are stupid, and it should be the leaders should just fist fight each other, and the winner gets to like bang the other's wife. And he's like, "What'd the wife do?" And just his like dismay of like being like, "Why does the wife get punished
That's
for
such a
that?"
Mike McDonald response, man. Rest in peace. And not, I mean, and exactly.
And
I
and
mean,
I think about
look,
that all the time, and I'm like, people will do that, like what you said, like put the blame on somebody else, or like it's like, okay, you can do that, but you also have to reflect it. Like that's the funny part is
well, what it all
you
comes
put the
down
blame
to,
on
man,
you.
is that we're all connected. We like I think a big problem is this constant focus on individuality. It's great to figure your shit out, but it's great to figure your shit out so you can be of value to other people, so
Right.
that you can make things better for other people. Whether it's one person or another, the fact of the matter is we have too many people being bad to other people out of fear, out of anxiety, out of stress, and it's not their fault. It's echoes. It's echoes
Hmm.
from generations. It's echoes from society. It's echoes from your next door neighbor. It's echoes from your boss. It's echoes from the friend that you have who's not really your friend. It's and then you lash out at others, and it bounces around. So try my best to live my life in a way where I try to spread the opposite of those things as much as I can. I'm not perfect and I never will be, and I make
Mhm.
mistakes, and I've been having a stressful time recently, and I'm doing my best with it. But, I have given myself the pass that when I'm on stage, I can be and say and do whatever I want. Now, I never want to hurt people, but I do allow myself to make to make any mistakes that I want on stage.
Totally.
And that way it's kind of like, I let the all of the whatever is bubbling under the surface come out on stage, and then in my real life I
Mhm.
can focus on being of value and being of service to other people.
It does feel
Because I
like
think,
a switch, right? Like
oh yeah.
you thinking about like performing and being on stage versus like how you are in your day-to-day life. You really do have to like turn that on. I can't like get the people that are always on, that are like constantly in that mindset. It's like, okay, that's nice for you, but for me, like I have to separate those two things. Otherwise, to what you're saying, like if a failure, quote unquote, failure happens to me on stage, I don't want to be thinking about that all day while I'm at work. I want to be thinking about that when I'm working on my stand up and going critically as an art form, how do I fix this so that this doesn't happen again?
Yeah, I mean, I am always in that mode, and that's why I started doing stand up, was because it was just part of me. Now, the thing is that it it wasn't great for everybody else, which is what you're talking about.
Right.
So I had to learn to harness it and hold on to it, write it down, put it away,
Yeah.
bring it to the place that it's appropriate for, you know?
Right.
Um, right? It's like I don't know. It's like going on a roller coaster. It's fun to scream on a roller coaster, but if you did that in the car, they'd kick you out. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
yeah,
Like,
yeah.
just because it's got wheels on it doesn't mean it's time to scream in the
Yeah, yeah,
car.
totally.
Screaming on the subway seems to be okay though.
Yeah, that's a
People don't
fun
like
place
it,
to do
but
it.
it's all right. But yeah,
Oh, I miss the TTC.
but I think that I think leading by example is is an incredibly important thing. I think it's
Mhm.
it's lost on so many of us, and it's really because we're just constantly going, and pushing and pushing and pushing. But if you never take time to slow down and stop and think and process, write things out, you know, you just can't be of any value to the people around you, and if you are, it's going to be limited, I think.
Yeah,
um,
no.
and I know that because because I have parents.
Yeah, I agree with that 100%.
Yeah, yeah. Um,
Um, let's talk about paralegal.
sure,
So
let's do it.
you did you create this show? What like how did this concept come to be? Like what when did this concept start happening for you? And like just take me over the process for you.
Well, it's actually a pretty fun story, man. So Paralegal is a show about ghost lawyers.
Okay.
Paralegal.
Yeah, love it.
Okay. A joke I used to make all the time when I was a kid. You remember those commercials where they would be like, go to CDI college
Yeah.
or whatever and become an air conditioner repairman. Remember they would say you could be a private detective. They'd be like, you could be a
Yeah.
private detective. You could uh, you could be like a legal secretary, or you could be a paralegal. And I was always like, a paralegal sounds like a ghost lawyer. And I had this idea for this show where it was my original concept was that it was going to be like a courtroom drama,
Okay.
serious courtroom drama, like the Ghost Whisperer meets Better Call Saul, or
Right.
meets Law and Order, rather. Like a 7 p.m. WB trash ass show.
Teletoon at night.
Yeah, and it was going to be a live action in my head.
Yeah.
Now, what was happening was, uh, so I was working as a personal trainer for Good Life. Not an endorsement. I was working for Good Life,
Yeah.
and I was given a random list of names. Okay, it was the day after I actually fired my agent because he wasn't getting me voice work, which is what I wanted
Mm.
more than anything. Taco Bell commercials, fine, but not what I'm aiming to do.
Yeah.
Um,
I
so
would
I
love to
fired
do
him.
voiceover work.
and I was really, and it's I was worried. I was like, well, what am I doing? Like, what? Because I was also in a place where it was like 2022, kind of coming out of the last lockdown that we had in
Yeah.
Toronto. And I was like, what the hell am I doing? Comedy was slow. Everything was slow. I just fired my agent. I was like, what am I doing? What's next? And I call this random list of numbers, and I call this one guy, Matthew Lyon, and he comes in, and we just sit down and we start talking. And as a trainer, I need to know what you do from a day to day. So I'm like, what do you do for work? He says, I'm an animator. And let me show you. I am, I love cartoons more than anything.
Wow. Yeah.
And that's not even the whole, like, that's not even
Apartment
the
tour.
whole, I love cartoons. So I was,
Yeah.
oh, and I wanted to do voice work. And the day before I fired my agent. So I was like, dude, like,
That's
what
crazy timing.
what like, wow, you're an animator. And I was like, I'm a trainer, but I'm also like a stand-up comedian. And he said, wow, that's really interesting, because I was thinking about maybe taking some classes, because I'm working on a project right now, and the other writer, just isn't funny. He can't form a joke, and I need better chops for writing jokes. And so he
Dude.
immediately was like, I need to get in shape. You're a comedian. You love anime. He's like, I see, again, value. I see value here.
Right.
Let's figure something, whatever it is. He knew that something could come of this. At the very
Yeah.
least, he could learn to write a joke. So one day we're every day we would train, and he would ask me my ideas. He'd be like, pitch me some ideas. You probably think of TV shows, movies, and I pitch him stuff. He'd be like, that's good. You should write that. That's bad. Don't ever tell anybody that you thought of that. But he's like, this is all long form. You ever think of a TV show idea? And I was like, he was mid push up. I swear he was mid push up. And I was like, yeah, I always wanted to do this TV show called ParaLegal about ghost lawyers. Mid push up, he falls. And it's just double. He goes, that's brilliant. Has anybody ever done that? I'm like, no one's ever done it. He goes, do you want to make that? And I was like,
Yeah.
100% I want to make that. Great. So we start thinking of how it could go, what it could be. And in the meantime, he goes, is there another comedian that you know of that you might work with who you would like to bring into this? Because it's better to have three of us. I'm the
Right.
animator. He's also a story guy. He's a brilliant story writer, brilliant animator. He's got an incredible award-winning animated series called Red Iron Road on Amazon. He's also done the animations for the Dollop
Oh,
podcast
incredible.
on YouTube right now. Check him out. Also, check out the Paralegal trailer.
Yeah, we should
Anyway,
watch it. I
like
have
right
it.
now,
I have it up. We will once you're finished, we'll
yeah.
play it.
So I was writing sketches, and I was pitching them to Tim Blair of Tall Boys, because all those guys
Love Tim Blair.
are my buddies. All
Yeah,
of those
yeah.
guys are my buddies. We all started in Toronto together. I moved to Toronto from Montreal. Tim and Guled were two of my first friends in Toronto. Tim and I have always been really close. And Franco is an old buddy of mine, and Vance and I know each other. So like, but anyway, I was pitching them ideas, and Tim was like, "I'm going to get you in the writers' room." Unfortunately, Tall Boys didn't get renewed for another
Mm.
season. But I was like, well, Tim is out of work now.
Yeah.
Let's bring him
There
in.
you go.
And we wrote this show, man, and it was beautiful. There was never a point in the writers' room where we argued. It was
Wow.
like, it sounds like magic, but it fucking was. It was the most magical shit. I've never had a writing session with someone. I've been in entertainment since I was a kid, basically. Like, I've been doing stuff my whole life. I've never had a writing session with someone. I've never worked on a project with someone that, like, these two guys who were just like, that's a good idea. Let's do that. That doesn't work, but hey, that guy has it. It was never, here's my idea. It's the most important. None of us ever went, my idea is the
Right.
best. We went, well, my idea is not working. What is your idea?
Mm.
Dude, we wrote this thing in 6 months. We wrote that we
Wow.
created the show in and we Tim and I learned how to write a screenplay properly because we were just writing gags, and Matt was like, no, 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 no.
Yeah, you
Here we
have
go.
this experienced person to give you some
Worst
structure
case
that works.
scenario,
Like, that's
we got
incredible.
a skill. Yeah. And we
That's
wrote it so like we wrote it pretty much so quickly.
and that just builds, man, because now you have this under your belt. People can look
Right.
at that body of work and go like, "Oh, that shit, that's what he's capable of." And then
Yeah.
you only get better the more you do it. Like, do you have more aspirations to create like other, or do you want to just keep going on paralegal until the story finishes itself?
I mean, Matt's always working on multiple projects. So he's already like
Mm.
the dollop was in the meantime, the dollop he was doing that while we're shopping paralegal around and waiting for the industry to kind of stop and start as it has been, both animation and film and television. It's been quite a ride. Um and and then we brought in all these brilliant minds, these brilliant actors, these incredible cast, like holy shit, man, from a stupid idea I had when I was a kid
Isn't that
to like
awesome?
having two of the best friends I could ever imagine.
Wow.
Yeah, like Matt Lyon isn't just one of my clients. He's not just a guy. He's one of my best friends in the whole world. He's one of the
Wow.
greatest. I've never known someone as generous and kind and thoughtful as he is, and he's so talented, man. I swear. Um, uh, and yeah, I'm writing another show right now. I'm a big fan of horror.
No
So
way.
I'm playing in that realm right now, and I think horror and
It
comedy they work
It's really
on a
funny you
similar
say
plane.
that because I just started creating like I had this idea. Originally, it was like I'm obsessed with creating like multiple streams of like sustainable income, probably because there's so
Yep.
much insecurity within art. And so I saw this original concept, and I don't know if you ever heard of like brain rot content.
Yep.
It's essentially like a Minecraft video, and then you use like an AI story that plays over top of that, and they get like crazy views. I was like, that's easy. I could do that on my phone in literally 30 seconds and start a whole TikTok page and let it go crazy, maybe monetize it. I started like as that being the original idea. But then as I started reading some of the scary stories that the AI was pumping out, and I was like, oh, this is really like it's really well done, and you can adjust certain things and you can build a whole cinematic universe. I created this page called Scary Stories Forever, and it's different. It all takes place in this like village called Black Hollow, and each everything paranormal happens in this place, like vampires, Bigfoot, aliens, like everything you could think of. And the way that it works is on the most recent one is I figured out the format is there's an image per scene, like with like say 5 images within a scene. So as the story is being told, it's like flipping through these images of almost just like a comic book of this like horror story.
That's very cool. That's very
And I was
cool.
just like, it's just like this side fun obsession that I've been working on where I'm like
Sure.
creating these and using like literally just using all AI to create it, which doesn't sound like the most creative thing because you're like, well, Johnny, that's not coming from you. So how is that authentic? But I'm like, I feel like a creative director because there's this element to AI that is like it has a tone of like horror to it. Because when you generate an image with ChatGPT, it's fucked up. Like someone's fingers will be like all mangled.
Yeah,
It,
it feels like we opened the gates of hell on that stuff, man.
it's crazy.
Anytime, like, listen, I use ChatGPT for some stuff, and I find it helpful. But the imagery stuff, man, it's
It's
uncanny valley,
it's
creepy
freaky.
ass.
It's freaky.
I swear it feels like we open up the gates of hell. Like we should not be looking at this stuff. No AI image has I can tell, no matter how perfect it is, there's
Oh yeah, yeah,
something
yeah.
uncanny that my brain goes,
Right, right.
a demon, run
Yeah.
away. You know, but that's cool. Yeah, I think, like I was saying, I think horror and comedy, it's the same. It's surprise, it's shock,
Yeah.
it's discomfort, um, and there's usually some sort of either personal story or a message being conveyed.
Hmm.
I think that's why horror and stand up comedy are so big right now because horror is maybe the only genre that's really innovating currently. Although it looks like we're coming back around a little bit, but horror's been innovating and they've been doing interesting stuff for a while now. And
A24 has been pumping out some bangers.
absolutely,
And they
absolutely,
take crazy risks on stuff. Black Mirror, like the explosion of those concepts of like futuristic problems that are like could actually happen, taking that more realism approach to it. But
yeah.
A24 with like Midsummer, the fact that it was all like in daylight, it makes it all the more terrifying.
Oh, I love a daylight horror, man. I
Oh, it's
love a
crazy.
daytime horror movie. Absolutely. Summer
Uh,
camp, bring me to summer camp, baby.
yeah.
Uh,
Should we play the paralegal trailer for people to watch here if you're watching on YouTube?
sure,
Um,
sure.
this is why you watch on YouTube. Here, let me share this. It's only 2 minutes. I'll play this out.
ParaLegal, the animated series, is brought to you by Borowitz and Associates, specializing in unfinished business law.
Has this ever happened to you? You enter your new legally purchased home only to discover it's haunted by evil spirits. And they're shooting 1970s ghost porn.
Anybody order a pizza? Extra sausage.
Anyone order a plumber? Extra sausage.
At Borowitz and Associates, we handle everything from the normal to the paranormal.
Or did a gas leak kill your entire cast and crew, and you're just trying to finish the shoot on a property you're legally haunting? Borowitz and Associates will always work hard to get you that happy ending.
Jerry and Luther, they found a solution. Worked great for everyone.
Thanks, Borowitz and Associate. From crypt eviction to sarcophagus insurance, we've got you covered. Hire my son. He's a good boy.
Thanks, Ma.
I was talking about Jerry, not you.
We also do personal injury law, but not emotional injury.
Go ahead, Miss Campbell.
It was him! He cursed the order for the children's hospital with a dead Brazilian soccer team.
Goal! You have no proof 'twas I who cursed those foul appendages. I cursed the foul appendages. Move it, fellas! Vamos! Vamos! I hate you, Borowitz and Associates.
Our list of services.
With full transparency.
Services include real estate and ethereal estate law, possession, epitaphs, copywriting and ghostwriting, wrongful haunting, zoning and dead zoning infractions, severance including beheadings, poltergeist property damage, hate crimes and racism, and many more. Call Borowitz and Associates today.
ParaLegal, the animated series, coming soon.
oh, yeah.
That's
So, I mean,
so
brilliant
good, man.
cast. Just in the trailer alone, we had Bruce McCullough from Kids in the Hall. We had Courtney Gilmore, who's a brilliant stand-up comedian. She's a killer. She runner-up on Canada's Got Talent. She's twice Juno nominated. Right now, she's Juno nominated. Hopefully, she wins this year.
Yeah.
Just the funniest, best. She's the best. You had Guled Abdi. You had Tim Blair. Franco Wen plays Jerry Borowitz, our main character. You had Matt Lyon in there as a couple characters, and you had little old me. Also signed on to the project are Kevin MacDonald and Scott Thompson from Kids in the Hall. Robin
That's
Duke
incredible.
from SCTV and Saturday Night Live. We have a couple of guests as well. Oh wait, we also have Sean Cullen, also Canadian comedy legend.
Crazy,
Funniest.
yeah.
We did a table read with him, Robin Duke, and like the two of them going back and forth was like, holy crap, these guys they're just so perfect at it. We have we have special guest Shad, a Canadian rapper Shad,
Oh, okay.
and CBC host. We have Shaggy Two Dope of the Insane Clown Posse
No way.
agreed to do an episode. Yeah, I was on a
What an
weird panel
eclectic
show
bunch.
with him. We were trying to make it very like, old Canadian comedy hands the torch off to young Canadian comedy.
Right.
But I was on a show with Shaggy Two Dope, and 12-year-old me was like, holy, this is the greatest thing ever. And I handed them, we made these tarot cards. So if you're ever at a show, if anybody's ever at a show and you want some, I got these paralegal tarot cards.
Oh,
Okay,
cool.
with our
That's
different
very
characters
cool.
on them. And we even developed a board game. Like we're not playing games here. We
That's
are playing games
awesome,
here,
man.
but we're not playing games. Um,
That should be the
but
tagline on the board game. We are not
yeah,
playing
we're not
games.
playing games here. I handed them a bunch of, like, I was hanging out with Shaggy Two Dope and his manager
What an
after this
insane thing to
panel
say.
show. Yeah, I know, we were hanging out. And like, by the way, nicest guy in the
I'm
world.
sure. Yeah, yeah.
Makeup and all, he's on the phone with his kids and just hanging out with us.
It's great.
He Yeah, and I was just pitching the idea. I was like, man, this guy's been a cartoon his whole life. Why not be in this horror comedy cartoon?
Totally.
So we got them. I feel like I'm missing somebody else. Oh, Nikki Payne, another Canadian legend, is
Very
involved.
cool.
And we have a couple others who have joined on, but will haven't allowed us to use their names, but
Mm,
they're pretty big. So it's
nice.
cool. It's really cool, man. And like, it's something to look forward to.
Yeah, it gives you hope and love.
Yeah, exactly. And yeah, the show's about family. In the end of it, it's about family. It's about correcting things. It's about leading with love over fear, even when ghosts and monsters are around.
Wow. I love that,
Yeah,
man.
yeah.
I have one last question for you, and I make sure I ask all my guests this question because
Sure,
it's
dude.
another sort of theme to the show and a real important question.
Are
Because
we
I
done
think,
already? I want to talk to you
yeah,
forever, Graham.
I know. I gotta make dinner soon, pal. But yeah, I'll definitely have you back on anytime. We can run this back whenever you want. There's some people that you have on and it's just easy to talk and we can go and go and go forever. And but I keep
I feel
it
like
an
we barely
hour.
scratched the surface,
I know. I keep it
Barely
an
scratched the
hour
surface
for
of
the people.
Love and Dobsky.
Yeah, I keep them wanting more. So this question is essentially, what advice would you give to your younger self? But I want you to think of yourself at 15 years old. Put yourself in that place, if you will, for a moment. The phone rings and it's you now on the other end, and you can give your younger self a piece of advice. Anything you say to your younger self is not going to impact your life. You've already made those decisions, it's already set in motion. But it could alter or change his, given the advice. What would you say?
Interesting. There's a lot there. First of all, in terms of horror, creepy phone calls, scariest thing in my opinion.
Scariest phone call ever.
Not slasher phone calls like this is me from the future, or like this
Yeah,
is
yeah,
a
yeah.
you ever seen there's a movie called The Caller, and it's a stupid movie. It's so scary because the girl's in the apartment and are you in my apartment? And she's like, I'm calling from 1965. Get out! And she starts killing her family in the past.
Jesus. No, it's
Yeah.
crazy.
So that would scare the fuck out of a 15-year-old me if I called myself. It's interesting because like it's the cliche answer of like, well, I wouldn't change anything because I am where I am now. I would
Right.
say, kind of what I was, kind of what we were touching on at the beginning. The advice I would give to my younger self would be to focus less on being cool, right, hot, smart, funny. Always focus on being funny, but focus more on love, honesty, truth, all of those things, because that's where real life is, man. Real life is in that stuff, not in the pretense of like, am I funny, am I cool, well, am I funny, but am I cool, does this person like me, and trying to make people like you if you're authentic. That's the bottom line.
Yeah,
um
totally.
and 15-year-old me was always just, a little too concerned with the external and didn't focus enough on the internal, for good reason. But I'd be like, you're doing the right things. Just don't worry so much about him and her, and I suppose they and them either.
Yeah.
Just
And you're gonna get to hang out with Shaggy.
and you're gonna get to hang out with Shaggy too. Though. Just
Yeah,
keep it up. Just be
yeah,
be
yeah,
authentic, and you'll get there, buddy. You're gonna
yeah.
make a cartoon one day, and that's all you've ever wanted.
I
Yeah,
love it,
yeah,
man.
yeah.
I want people to follow you. It's jeremy.com. The links are always in the description below. And make sure you go check out Jeremy's comedy special called Love Language and go watch Paralegal. Where can they watch Paralegal?
So it's not out yet. We're
Okay.
still waiting for millionaires to make decisions because that's the game, and they take
So
a
go
long time.
tweet that you want this show to happen and tag
Watch
Disney.
the trailer.
This.
Watch the trailer
Yeah.
till your brain bleeds. Please
Share that
please,
trailer.
just
Yeah.
blow it up. Help me out. Blow me up a little bit. I know that I wasn't hilarious on this podcast, but I was talking about honesty and love and truth and not
Yeah,
being
that's
a traitor.
authentic.
I'm not worried about what you think of me, but what I'd
Right.
like is if you help me get bigger, if you help Paralegal trailer get bigger, if you get us
How
out there,
awesome
get
would
the
it
word
be if
out.
somebody watched this podcast and they're like, I'm a major network executive looking to pick up a show. This is my
Yeah.
show.
I mean, good for you, Johnny. And by the way, you can also purchase my album on cassette tape.
Oh, cool.
So
Very cool.
Here, yeah.
Is it
one
on the
last thing.
link tree?
It's in my. It's all. You can get it on my Bandcamp, but if you send
Okay.
me, honestly, if you're in Toronto or the GTA, I'll bring it to you.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, look at this.
Yeah, send Jeremy a message if you want him to, if you're going to be
So
coming
look.
to a show. That's really cool, man. I love that.
Yeah, I collect cassette tapes. That's a whole other thing we can talk about on another day.
Yeah, the cassette tape collection. Let's do it. That's
Yeah.
great, though. I love
So
that.
these are available. I'm available. Whatever you want. You want advice. You want hugs. You want to get into an argument. We could do whatever you want.
More importantly, go share that Paralegal special, though.
Please and thank you. Thank you for having me, Johnny.
Of course, man. It's always a pleasure. I'll definitely have you back on. This has been fun.
Yeah, it's a blast. We'll talk about other stuff next time.
Yeah. All right. Good night, man.